I'm Arthur Mitchell, 65 years old, and up until a year ago, I lived on my own in a small cottage on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I had my routine morning coffee on the porch, afternoons spent tinkering with tools, and evenings reading or watching the sunset. Life was simple, quiet, but all that changed when my health started to decline. My doctor told me I needed to cut back on the physical strain, take it easy, and most importantly, be closer to people in case something went wrong. That's when my daughter, Claire, offered me a place to stay. It seemed harmless at first. I had no immediate family close by, and she lived in a nice, spacious home in town. Her offer seemed like the perfect solution, at least for a few months, until I was back on my feet. But, as is often the case with these things, what started as a temporary arrangement slowly turned into something I hadn't anticipated. At first, it was nice. Claire would cook for me, help me with things I couldn't manage on my own, and we'd have long talks over dinner. But after a while, things started to change. The house became less of a place to stay and more of a place I couldn't leave. That it started with small things. Claire would ask, "Dad, are you sure you need to go out today? It's getting a little chilly." Then it was, "You know, I'm not comfortable with you driving anymore. You should stay in today." And one day, it turned into, "I don't think it's a good idea for you to be outside by yourself. You can't be too careful at your age." I didn't think much of it at first. She was just being cautious, looking out for me. But as the days wore on, those small requests began to feel like something else, like rules. Claire would make decisions for me without asking, and every time I disagreed or tried to assert myself, she'd dismiss it as not in your best interest. One evening, when I mentioned that I was thinking of meeting an old friend for coffee, Claire's face grew tight. "No, Dad, I really don't think that's a good idea. It's been too long since we've spent time together. Why don't you stay in tonight? You don't need to go out." I could feel my frustration building, but I didn't want to argue. I was tired, a little unwell, but still, something inside me bristled at the way she was controlling my life. The more she restricted me, the more I felt like my independence was slipping away. The next morning, I decided to go out for a walk in the garden. Fresh air always made me feel better. But as I opened the door to step outside, Claire appeared, standing in front of it with a stern look on her face. "Arthur, where do you think you're going?" I froze, startled by the force in her voice. "I was just going outside for a bit, Claire. I need some fresh air." She stepped forward, blocking the door. "No, Dad, you've had enough rest for today. You'll catch a chill if you go out there." I couldn't believe it. My own daughter was telling me I couldn't leave the house. It wasn't just about health or safety anymore. This was control. I felt a knot in my chest, my frustration turning to anger. "You can't keep me in here forever, Claire," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm not a child. I can take care of myself." Her expression softened for a moment, but only for a split second. Then it hardened again. "I'm doing what's best for you, Dad. You don't understand. It's for your own good." And just like that, the door was closed on me. Not literally, but figuratively. As I stood there, staring at her back as she walked away, I realized that something was terribly wrong. What had started as concern had transformed into control, and I was now trapped in my own daughter's home. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the weight of the situation began to hit me. I wasn't free anymore. I couldn't come and go as I pleased. I couldn't meet my friends, walk around town, or even sit on the porch without her checking in on me. It wasn't the home I had come to visit, it was a cage. And the worst part was, I hadn't even seen the bars. I had to do something. But what? How could I stand up to my own daughter without causing a scene, without creating a rift that might tear us apart? I didn't have the answers then, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to stay locked inside forever. After that night, when Claire had blocked my way out of the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It wasn't just about the small restrictions she placed on me here and there. It was about the control. She had gone from being my daughter, someone I trusted, to someone who was making decisions for me, as if I couldn't think for myself. I had always prided myself on my independence. Even at 65, I was still capable of doing most things on my own. Sure, I had health issues, but they didn't define me. I wasn't some helpless old man. Yet that's how Claire seemed to see me. And the worst part was, I started to believe it. Claire was well-meaning, I'm sure. She was a good daughter, had always been there when I needed her. But I had never expected that kindness to turn into something suffocating. It wasn't until she started controlling the simplest aspects of my life that I realized how much it had changed. And by the time I noticed, it was too late. The next few days were a blur of tension. Claire continued to fill my days with chores and activities she thought I should be doing. She'd hand me a list of things to do in the house, as though I didn't know what needed to be done. Sometimes, it felt as though she was micromanaging every part of my existence. I could tell she thought she was helping, but every time she told me what to do, I felt a little more like a prisoner. On the fourth day after my attempt to go outside, I tried again. I had made up my mind to go for a walk, even if it meant sneaking out. I had been cooped up inside long enough. I could feel the weight of the house pressing down on me, and I needed to get away, if only for a little while. As I made my way toward the back door, Claire walked in, just as I was about to step outside. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, her face unreadable. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "I'm going for a walk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I knew what was coming. She was going to try to stop me again. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "I really think you should stay in today, Dad. It's getting late. You'll be fine tomorrow." I tried to walk past her, but she stepped in front of the door, blocking my way. The same tactic she had used the first time, but this time, something in me snapped. I was done. "Claire, this is too much," I said, my voice shaking with frustration. "You can't keep me in here. I'm your father. I've raised you. I've done my time looking after you. But now you're treating me like I'm a child." Claire looked taken aback, but her expression quickly hardened. "I'm just trying to keep you safe," she said, her tone defensive. "You don't understand. It's for your own good." "For my own good?" I asked, incredulity rising in my voice. "You're locking me in here, Claire. I can't live like this. I'm not a prisoner." The words hung in the air for a moment, and Claire's face softened, but only slightly. "I don't want to hurt you, Dad, but you have to understand this isn't easy for me either. I don't want to lose you. I'm just trying to help." I could see the conflict in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt the weight of her concern. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't about her intentions anymore. It was about the way she was treating me. I had to stand up for myself. "I need you to let me out, Claire," I said, my voice firm but still strained. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you, I'm going outside. I'm going for a walk, and I don't need you to control me anymore." For a long moment, Claire didn't respond. She just stood there, staring at me, as if weighing her options. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes, the struggle between the daughter who wanted to protect her father and the one who had to come to terms with the fact that I wasn't the helpless old man she seemed to think I was. "I'm sorry, Dad," she finally said, stepping aside, "but please be careful. Don't go too far." I didn't say anything in response. I didn't need to. I simply stepped out the door, leaving her standing there. Silent. As I walked down the street, the cool air filled my lungs, and I could feel the tension in my chest begin to loosen. I had done it. I had stood up for myself. I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. I had every intention of staying out for a while. But something made me turn back after a few blocks. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the realization that Claire was worried about me. But as I walked back to the house, I knew that things between us couldn't stay like this forever. I couldn't live like a prisoner under her roof, and I needed to find a way to make her understand that. When I returned to the house after my walk, I expected Claire to be waiting for me, perhaps with a disapproving look or a quiet remark about how she'd been worried about me. But when I walked in, the house was eerily quiet. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. I paused for a moment, my heart still pounding from the rush of freedom I'd felt outside. But a deep pit of unease settled in my stomach. I didn't know why I was so uneasy. Maybe it was the fact that Claire hadn't come rushing in to scold me or make me feel guilty. Perhaps it was because, after so many weeks of being trapped inside, I had come to expect her control to be immediate. But today, for the first time, I realized she was letting me walk back in without saying a word. I moved through the house, cautiously, and found her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of tea, deep in thought. When I walked in, she didn't even look up. "Claire," I said, my voice quieter than I had intended, "I don't want to fight, but I can't live like this anymore. You can't keep controlling every part of my life. I'm still your father. I deserve my independence." She sighed and finally looked up, her eyes weary. "Arthur, I know you think I'm being controlling, but it's not like that. You don't understand. I'm just trying to protect you." I sat down across from her, my hands clenched around the edges of the chair. Protect me from what, Claire? I'm not a child. I'm not helpless. I know you're trying to do what's best for me, but you've crossed the line. I can't keep living in this cage. I need space. I need to feel like I have control over my own life again. Claire's eyes softened, but there was still a hardness to her voice. I don't want you to get hurt, Dad. I don't want you to fall or end up in the hospital again. I've been through so much already, and I can't bear to watch you go through that alone. Her words hit me like a weight to the chest, but I wasn't going to back down. I couldn't. Claire, I appreciate your concern, but this isn't the way. You've been smothering me. You've been making decisions for me, telling me what I can and can't do. It's not your job to protect me from everything. I can take care of myself, and I deserve the freedom to make my own choices, even if I mess up sometimes. There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought she might cry. Her face twisted with something I couldn't quite place: regret, maybe, fear. She looked as if she was wrestling with herself, with something she had been holding on to for a long time. I don't want you to leave, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know you think I'm being overbearing, but I don't want to lose you. I can't bear the thought of you being out there, alone, and something happening to you. I'm scared, Dad. Her admission hit me like a wave. The walls of resistance I had been building around myself cracked, and suddenly, I understood. This wasn't just about control. This wasn't just about me being independent. It was about Claire's fear. Fear that one day, I wouldn't be around anymore. Fear that she might lose me, like she had lost so much in her life already. She wasn't trying to imprison me out of malice or anger. She was trying to protect herself from the pain of losing her father. But that didn't change the fact that she had crossed a line. And as much as I understood her fear, I couldn't let it dictate the rest of my life. I get it. Claire, I said quietly, my voice softer now. I understand that you're scared, but you can't keep me here like this. You can't control everything I do. I know you love me, but love means trusting me too. Trusting that I know what's best for me, even if it's not what you want. She looked away, biting her lip, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered. I'm just trying to do what's right. I stood up and walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. I know, Claire, I know, but we need to find a way to let go of this. You need to trust that I can make my own decisions. I'm not ready to give up on my life. I'm not ready to be confined. For the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. It wasn't immediate. She didn't suddenly accept everything I said, and I didn't expect her to. But in that moment, I saw that Claire was beginning to realize that there had to be a balance, a way for her to protect me, and for me to reclaim my independence. I won't keep you locked in here, Dad, she said softly, a tear slipping down her cheek. But you have to promise me that you'll take care of yourself. Promise me that you won't push yourself too hard, that you won't take unnecessary risks. I nodded, my heart heavy. I promise, Claire, but I need you to promise me something too. That you'll trust me to make my own decisions. That you'll trust me to live my life the way I see fit. She looked at me for a long moment before nodding slowly, her shoulders sagging with relief. I'll try, Dad. I'll try. The air between us had shifted. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't be perfect, but it was a start. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had some control over my own life again. The days following my conversation with Claire were quieter, more civil, and filled with an unspoken understanding that had been missing for months. I could see it in her eyes. She was trying, truly trying, to loosen her grip on me, to allow me to live my life without the constant reminders and restrictions. I could feel the change, a shift toward something more like the relationship we had before all of this started. But it wasn't easy, for her or for me. At first, everything seemed like it would settle into a new rhythm. Claire was more relaxed, allowing me to go out for walks, meet friends, and even drive into town to take care of things I'd put off. I started to feel like myself again. It was like someone had finally opened the windows, and I could breathe again. But, as I soon realized, habits don't break overnight. One morning, a week after our heart-to-heart, I was sitting on the back porch, enjoying my coffee and the cool breeze. I had just come back from a walk to the bakery down the street, a little indulgence. One of my small acts of independence that I cherished. The house was quiet, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a peace I hadn't had in months. But then, Claire came out onto the porch, her face a little more strained than usual. She stood by the door, watching me with her arms crossed. and I could sense that something was off. "Dad," she started, her voice a little too sharp for a casual conversation. "I noticed you didn't take your phone with you this morning." I set my coffee down and looked at her. I didn't think I needed it. I was just going to the bakery and back. "What's the big deal?" Her lips pressed into a tight line. "I just don't want you to get hurt, that's all." She paused before adding, "What if something happened? What if you needed help?" I felt a wave of frustration rise inside me. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like this, but it felt more intrusive now, more controlling. "I'm not a child, Claire. I don't need you watching over me every second. I'm fine. I'm not going to get hurt just walking to the bakery." Her expression softened, but there was still a flicker of worry in her eyes. "I know, I just can't help it, okay? I know you're capable, but after everything, I get so scared. I don't want to lose you." I stood up from my chair, walked over to her, and gently put my hands on her shoulders. "Claire, I understand that you're scared, but I need to live my life. You can't keep smothering me like this. I love you, and I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I can't keep living under this cloud of worry. I need space." Her eyes welled up, and for a moment, I thought she might cry. "I don't know how to stop worrying about you, Dad. She stopped, choking back tears. "I don't want to see you fall again. It's not just about the walk or the phone. I'm terrified that one day, I won't be able to take care of you." I pulled her into a hug, feeling her shoulders shake against mine. "I'm not going anywhere, Claire. You're not going to lose me, but you need to trust me to take care of myself. I promise I'll be careful, but I need to make my own choices." She held on to me tightly, her tears wetting my shirt. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for trying to control you. I didn't mean to make you feel trapped." I squeezed her tighter. "I know, but we both need to work on this. It's not going to be easy, but we can find a way." For the first time, I saw the real depth of Claire's fear. It wasn't just about me, it was about losing someone she loved. She wasn't trying to trap me out of malice or disregard for my autonomy. She was doing it out of fear. Fear that she would lose her father, just as she had lost others in her life. But I also knew that this couldn't go on forever. We had to strike a balance between her care and my need for independence. The line between the two was thin, but I was determined to find it. Over the next few days, things did improve, but there were still moments when I felt the weight of her overprotectiveness. She would ask where I was going, who I was meeting, and whether I had taken my medication. And while I understood her concern, it still grated on me. I had to push back, gently but firmly. Each time she tried to pull me back into her orbit, I had hoped the worst was behind us. But then the phone call came. I was at the kitchen table one afternoon, reading the paper, when Claire's phone rang. She had gone out for errands, but I had left mine charging upstairs. The call was brief, just a few short exchanges. But when she came back into the house, I could tell something had changed. "Dad," she said, walking over to me, her face pale. "I just spoke to the doctor's office. They're saying it's time for another round of tests. They think your heart might be under strain again." My chest tightened. It wasn't a new issue. I'd been dealing with heart problems for years, but hearing it again, in the context of everything that had been happening, suddenly felt like a weight I couldn't carry. "I'll be fine, Claire," I said, trying to sound calm. "I've been dealing with this for years. It's just routine." But Claire wasn't having it. "You don't understand, Dad. You're not fine. You've been getting weaker, and I'm not going to let you keep pushing yourself. I can't let that happen." This time, her concern wasn't just about me getting hurt outside. It was about her losing me. Plain and simple. I knew I needed to stand firm. But this new wave of worry, this added pressure was too much. I felt like I was being pulled in two directions at once. The need to protect my own freedom and the need to protect my daughter from her own fear. We weren't done yet. The days following the phone call with the doctor felt like a slow, suffocating countdown. Claire's worry had intensified. She was constantly checking in, asking me if I felt okay, urging me to rest, almost to the point of hovering. I knew she meant well, but it was starting to feel like I was being smothered again, as if my every move was being scrutinized. The thought of going to the doctor for the tests terrified me, not because I didn't trust the doctors, in the contrary. I trusted them more than I trusted my own ability to manage my health, but because I didn't want to face the possibility that things might not be as good as I had hoped. If the tests came back with bad news, I didn't want to face the consequences. I didn't want to give Claire another reason to worry, another reason to lock me down even further, but I couldn't put it off forever. So, I went. I sat in that sterile, cold room while the nurse hooked me up to machines, took my blood, and asked a million questions about my health that I didn't have answers for. I tried to remain calm, tried to act like I wasn't scared, but deep down, I knew this was a turning point. I didn't know how much longer I could pretend to be okay. When the results came in, Claire insisted on coming with me to the doctor's office. I could tell she was afraid of what they might say, but she insisted that we go together. I didn't have the energy to argue, so I agreed. The doctor's office was quiet as we sat there, waiting. I could hear the muffled sounds of nurses talking in the hallway, the soft hum of the air conditioning. Claire sat next to me, her hand on my arm, not saying anything, just waiting with me. I could feel her tension radiating off of her. I knew this was as hard on her as it was on me. Finally, the doctor came in, a middle-aged man with glasses and a kind face. He sat down across from us and looked at the results on his tablet, glancing up at us now and then. I couldn't read his expression. I didn't know whether that was good or bad. Mr. Mitchell, he began, his voice measured and calm. The results of your tests show some concerning signs. There's a significant amount of strain on your heart, more than we had hoped. It's not an immediate crisis, but it's something we need to address before it gets worse. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. For a moment, everything went silent. I looked at Claire, who was gripping my arm tightly, her face pale. She was trying to keep her composure, but I could see the panic in her eyes. The doctor continued, "We need to start treatment right away to prevent further damage. This means lifestyle changes, medication, and, potentially, more tests down the road. But the good news is, with the right care, you can manage this. It won't be easy, but it's manageable." I nodded slowly, trying to process what he was saying. It wasn't the worst news, it wasn't like they were telling me I had months to live or anything, but it was the news I had been dreading. My body was failing me, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep up the act that I was fine. The doctor left us alone for a few minutes to think. As soon as he stepped out, Claire turned to me, her face filled with a mix of relief and sorrow. "You heard him, Dad," she said, her voice trembling. "It's not the end. It's not too late. We can get you the treatment you need." I nodded, though I wasn't sure I felt as optimistic as she did. I know, Claire, but I don't know if I can keep up with all the restrictions. I don't know if I can handle it." Claire looked at me with such intensity, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "You don't have to handle it alone, Dad. I'm here. I'll help you through this. You don't have to be independent all the time. I want to help." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Part of me wanted to cry, to tell her that I didn't want her help, that I wanted to handle this on my own. But another part of me, the part I hadn't wanted to acknowledge, was desperate for her care, desperate for her to look after me in the way that she thought was best. I wanted to feel like I could be the man I used to be. I wanted to feel like I could live independently again. But deep down, I knew I was no longer that man. And that hurt more than anything else. We left the doctor's office in a daze. Claire kept talking about the treatment plan, about the medications I needed to take, about the changes I would have to make. But all I could think about was how much my life was about to change, how much I was going to lose. The hardest part wasn't the diagnosis. It wasn't even the idea of having to rely on others. The hardest part was knowing that, in some way, Claire's control over me was justified. She wasn't just acting out of fear anymore. She was acting out of love. She was trying to keep me alive, to keep me with her, even if it meant taking away my independence. When we got home, I sat in my chair by the window, watching the world go by. The reality of my situation hit me harder than I expected. My heart was weak, my body was failing me, and the future I had always taken for granted was suddenly uncertain. I felt like I had lost something more than just my health. I had lost the life I thought I had left. Claire came in, her steps hesitant. She sat down next to me, her presence comforting and suffocating at the same time. "Dad," she said quietly, "I know this is a lot. I know you want to be independent, but I'm here, and I need you to trust me. Let me help you through this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes. She wasn't just worried about me. She was scared to lose me, and that scared me too. But I couldn't let her keep me in that cage forever. We had to find a way to move forward, together, as I tried to reclaim my independence. Claire's fear began to unravel the fragile balance between us. The more I pushed back, the more she pulled. It wasn't just about my health anymore, it was about our relationship, our trust, and our identities as father and daughter. The days following the doctor's visit were a blur of new routines. Claire had become even more vigilant after the diagnosis, her eyes constantly on me, waiting for signs that I wasn't following the doctor's orders or that I was pushing myself too hard. I understood that she was worried, but each new rule she imposed felt like another layer of control, another part of my freedom slipping away. The medications were the first hurdle. I had to take them twice a day, and Claire made sure I did. Each morning, she'd bring me the pills in a small container, and I'd have to sit there, swallowing them in front of her, like a child taking medicine from a parent. I resented it, but I knew it was for my own good, at least in part. The pills made me feel weaker, reminded me that I wasn't in control anymore. It wasn't just the medications though. Claire had started to block my time out of the house. She insisted on driving me to the grocery store, even though I could drive myself. She would check in on me constantly, asking where I was going, who I was meeting. Every time I mentioned seeing a friend, there was a subtle undertone of judgment, as though she didn't trust me to make my own decisions. The tipping point came one afternoon, when I decided to take a walk to clear my head. I had been cooped up in the house all week, and I was starting to feel like I was suffocating. I didn't tell Claire I was leaving. I simply walked out the door and down the street, hoping for a little peace and quiet. I hadn't been gone long when I saw Claire's car pulling up alongside me. She rolled down the window, her face tight with anger and worry. "Arthur, what are you doing?" she demanded, her voice strained. I stopped in my tracks, feeling a rush of frustration. "I'm taking a walk, Claire. I need some time for myself." She slammed the car door and walked toward me. "You can't just go out like this. You're not following the doctor's orders. You're supposed to be resting, not walking around the neighborhood like everything's fine." I felt my temper flare. "I'm not a child. I know my limits. I don't need you to monitor every step I take." Claire's eyes flashed with hurt and confusion. "I'm just trying to help you, Dad. You don't get it. You don't understand what it's like to watch someone you love get weaker, to feel like you're losing them." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had always seen Claire as the strong one, the one who could handle anything, but now, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes, I realized that this was as hard on her as it was on me. She was scared of losing her father, scared of facing the reality that I wasn't invincible anymore. "I understand, Claire," I said, my voice softer, "but this is my life. I'm the one living it. I need to make decisions for myself, even if they're not what you want." She stood there for a moment, silent, as if weighing my words. Then she spoke, her voice quieter but firm. "I don't want to lose you, Dad. I don't want to be left alone. I can't bear the thought of you being out there on your own, not with what's happening to you." I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I couldn't give in. "You won't lose me, Claire, but I can't live in a bubble. I can't be locked up inside this house forever, waiting for something to happen. I'm not going to stop living just because I'm sick." Her face crumbled, and I saw the weight of her emotions breaking through. "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let go." I stepped toward her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to let go completely, Claire. I'm still here, but I need you to trust me. I need you to trust that I know what's best for me, even if it's hard for you to accept." For a long moment, we stood there in the quiet street, the tension between us hanging thick in the air. Claire was crying now, quietly, her shoulders shaking. "I'm scared, Dad. I'm so scared that one day, you'll go out and never come back." I pulled her into a hug, feeling the weight of her fear press down on me. "I'm not going anywhere, Claire. I'm right here, but you need to trust me. You need to give me the space to live my life." She nodded, wiping her eyes, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. I knew she wasn't ready to let go of the control. I knew it would take time, but this was the first step. The rest of the week was filled with strained moments, quiet discussions, and me pushing back in small ways, taking walks, going to the store on my own, insisting on making decisions without asking for Claire's permission. It wasn't easy, and it didn't always go well. Claire still tried to hover, still tried to protect me in ways that felt suffocating. But there was a shift, a subtle change in the way she looked at me. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. That Saturday, I went for a walk again. This time, I told Claire where I was going before I left, but I didn't ask her permission. It was a small victory, but it felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I didn't know how long it would take for Claire and I to find the right balance. I didn't know if I could ever regain the freedom I once had, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving toward something, toward independence. toward a life where I was still in control. I thought that things were improving. In the weeks after I began pushing back against Claire's overprotectiveness, I thought we had reached an understanding. I was careful not to push too hard, and Claire was trying, in her own way, to let go. But the truth is, we were both walking a fine line. Every small step I took toward independence seemed to bring us a step closer to conflict. At first, it wasn't so obvious. It was the little things, the way Claire would suggest I not take the stairs if I was feeling tired, or how she insisted on keeping track of when I took my medication. She would leave notes for me on the kitchen counter with instructions for the day, as though I couldn't be trusted to make my own schedule. I started to feel like a child again, constantly being told what to do, when to rest, when to go to bed. I had tried to be patient. I really had, but it was starting to gnaw at me, wearing me down with every passing day. And then came the night when everything came to a head. It started innocently enough. I had gone out to dinner with an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. It was the first time in months that I'd felt truly free, away from the watchful eyes of Claire, out in the world like I used to be. The dinner had been good, and we spent hours catching up. It felt like a breath of fresh air. But when I returned home, I found the house much too quiet. I walked in the door, and Claire was waiting for me in the living room, her face tight with concern. "Where have you been?" she asked, her voice a little too sharp for my liking. "I told you I was meeting Bill for dinner," I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "I told you I'd be back late." Her eyes narrowed, and she stood up, pacing. "I don't like you going out without telling me exactly where you are, Arthur. I don't like the fact that I don't know where you've been all this time." I froze. "Claire, we've been over this. I'm not a child. I don't need you to keep track of me. I'm allowed to have a life outside of this house. I'm just trying to protect you," she snapped, her eyes flashing with frustration. "You don't get it, do you? You're getting weaker, and I'm not going to sit back and let you make the same mistakes you did last time." I felt my chest tighten at her words. "What do you mean, last time?" She stopped pacing, looking at me as though she regretted saying it. "When you had that heart attack, Arthur, don't you remember? You almost died, and I was the one who had to watch you struggle." Her voice broke. "I can't lose you again." I was silent for a moment, feeling the weight of her words press down on me. I understood the fear she was feeling, but I also realized how much it was controlling her and how much it was controlling me. "I'm not going anywhere, Claire," I said softly, "but you can't keep trying to shield me from everything. I need my space. I need to feel like I'm still in control of my life, even if I'm sick." "I don't know how to let go," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to stop being scared." "I know," I said, walking toward her and placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know you're scared, but I'm not going to stop living just because you're afraid. You have to trust me, Claire." She stepped back, her face flushed with a mix of anger and hurt. "You don't get it, Dad. You don't understand what it's like to be in my shoes. I'm trying to protect you, but all you do is push me away." I felt my temper rise. "I'm not pushing you away. I'm just trying to live my life. You're not letting me live it. You're suffocating me." "I'm not suffocating you. I'm trying to save you," she shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "You're not the same anymore. You're not the man you were. I don't want to lose you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen." Her words hit me harder than I had expected. I knew she loved me. I knew she was scared. But in that moment, it felt like she wasn't seeing me anymore. She was seeing a sick old man, someone she had to protect, someone she had to save. "I'm not your patient, Claire," I said, my voice firm, though my heart was breaking. "I'm your father, and I'm still the same man. I may be sick, but I'm still here. I'm still me." I could see the fight leaving her, her shoulders sagging as she stepped away from me. She was crying now, silently, as if all the years of fear and frustration had finally broken free. I wanted to reach out to her, to comfort her, but I couldn't, not until she understood. "I need you to trust me, Claire," I said softly, my heart aching. "I need you to let me go a little. I need to be myself again, not someone you have to protect." She didn't respond. Instead, she turned away and walked out of the room. I stood there, alone, the weight of everything that had been left unsaid hanging heavy in the air. I had made my decision. I couldn't live under her control anymore, but I didn't know how to fix this, how to fix us. The truth was, I was scared too, but I had to face that fear. I had to live my life, even if it meant losing her trust. The decision was mine to make. and I had to choose whether to reclaim my independence or risk losing the last real connection. I had left. The days after that night were difficult, and silence seemed to settle over the house like a heavy fog. Claire and I avoided each other, retreating to our separate corners, nursing our own wounds. I could feel the distance growing between us, like an invisible wall that was slowly rising higher with every passing day. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let this rift become permanent. But every time I tried to reach out, I felt the same fear creeping in, not just for her, but for myself. The fear that I was losing not just my independence, but the one person who had always been there for me. Claire had become my caretaker, my constant presence in a world that was growing smaller and smaller as I got older. She had always been my rock, and yet, here I was, fighting for something I wasn't sure I could get back: my autonomy. One morning, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the half-empty coffee cup in front of me. I had spent the better part of the last hour convincing myself to go talk to Claire, to tell her everything that had been weighing on me. But each time I thought about it, I hesitated. Would she even listen? Or would she just see me as another patient to care for, another problem to fix? I heard the soft sound of footsteps behind me, and before I knew it, Claire was standing there, her face pale and drawn. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at me like she wasn't sure what to say. "I've been thinking," I said, breaking the silence, my voice quieter than usual, "about everything, about you and me, and what we've been going through. I don't want this to tear us apart, Claire, but I need you to understand something." She took a deep breath, still standing by the door, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "I don't know what else I can do, Dad. I've tried everything. I'm just trying to keep you safe. I don't want to lose you." Her words hit me like a blow. I could hear the pain in her voice, the desperation, and it made my heart ache. I wanted to reach out to her, to tell her that I understood, that I knew why she was doing this. But I couldn't. I couldn't keep living in this prison of her fear. "I know you don't want to lose me, Claire," I said, standing up slowly, "but I can't keep living like this. I need to be more than just someone you take care of. I'm your father, and I need you to trust me to make my own decisions, even if they scare you." Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "I do trust you, Dad, but it's hard. I'm scared. I can't just let you go out there and pretend everything's fine when I know it's not. What if something happens to you?" I took a step toward her, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I understand, Claire, but you have to understand something too. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm asking for your trust. You've been taking care of me for so long, but I need to live my life again. I need to feel like I'm still a part of this world, not just someone who's being watched over." Her tears finally fell, and she took a step back, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "I don't know if I can let go, Dad. I don't know if I can stop worrying about you." I took another step closer, gently placing my hand on her arm. "I'm not asking you to stop worrying. I'm asking you to trust me, to trust that I know my limits, and if I can't take care of myself, I'll ask for help. But I need you to let me go a little." There was a long pause, and I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on both of us. Finally, Claire nodded, her shoulders sagging with the weight of the decision. "I don't want to lose you, Dad," she whispered, "but I'll try. I'll try to trust you. I just need time." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly as the weight of the last few weeks seemed to lift from both of us. I wasn't sure what would happen from here on out. I wasn't sure how much of my independence I could truly regain, or how much Claire could let go of her fear. But in that moment, I knew that we had taken the first step towards something better. Things didn't magically improve overnight. There were still moments of tension, times when I felt Claire's worry pressing in on me again. But each time, I reminded her gently that I had to be the one to live my life. And each time, she did her best to trust me. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control over my life again. A few weeks later, I went to the local park by myself. I didn't ask for Claire's permission. I just went, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free.